Welcome back to yet another possibly very wild start to the week, and I'm joined by Chris Beecham here. How are you?
Good morning, I'm all right, thank you. It's been a mad 48 hours,
Ooh.
72 hours.
More than that.
Yeah.
All kicked off Thursday.
Thursday, but really Friday, of course. I think it was, I messaged you Friday evening to show you silver was down 30%, which is the most dramatic move we've had in about 40 years, I think, not since the 80s. Have you seen that kind of rout? It's down 10% this morning. Gold is off by 6%. Well, the rout in precious metals that everyone knew was coming has
It was a
finally
matter
arrived.
of when.
It was a matter of when. And, okay, it's much more dramatic than probably anyone thought it would be. But it was exactly what Axel and I were saying last week, not to sort of drone about things about being right, but what we said about parabolic markets, they go further than you expect, but they do not correct by going sideways. And it is exactly here. Some people say this is a rug pull. It's just been, that's how it looks, clearly, with that daily candle you've got there. That you do not see those very often in live, in markets, or probably more often than you should actually on a mathematical basis.
And also what we talked about a lot here as well, as you saw with Axel, myself, and Rick Bensignor, who is the ex-comics trader that I have brought on for Ange on Wall Street, is that when silver breaks, out of all the metals, it is the one that has the most crazy cliff drop out of all the metals. And we've seen that. And that is exactly why we're talking about stops. You heard me saying I'm going to use guaranteed stops now because the positions which I have de-risked at that point in time were already, to my mind, we were in a position where it was untenable. In a time when you cannot buy even numismatic coins. Were you there with me on that?
When you're trying to buy copper.
Yeah, but also silver, and you have lots and lots of different houses sending you emails, brokers of these numismatic coins saying delivery will be slow. You know, we don't have any at the moment. This, to me, is saying that this is not a proper functioning market. And so we were very toppy. I was messaging Rich on Thursday, and I told him before midday, I'm banking half of my profit. And he was like, whoa, I'm going to put on more of a short then. It was quite spectacular the last few days. What were you doing on Friday?
Nothing really.
Ah.
Why? Not specifically? Or just,
yeah, well, just, you know, whilst all this was going on.
It wasn't my fault. I didn't cause it. It was,
did you see all the Twitter sphere messages about how, you know, this was concocted, this was all, you know, something that
yes, inevitably, whenever you get this move, JP Morgan gets put into the frame. It's always been
JP Morgan.
It's always JP Morgan manipulated. I think it's maybe just the name carries so much weight. But and obviously, as you can see with markets this morning, it's a kind of spread across to an extent to indices. So they're all in the red. Oil prices, of course, down at 5% because we didn't see any action in the Middle East. I think we shouldn't treat military actions as some kind of spectator sport, but nonetheless, it was looking very likely that they would move over the weekend, but it seems that negotiations will happen this week, although I don't think either side is holding out very much hope for any progress, sadly. Well, you could debate whether it's sadly.
Yeah, you need to keep it in view. You need
we
to
just
keep
talk
it
about
on
from
your
a
radar.
market perspective, but from a so oil prices have come off dramatically as well, but obviously nothing compared to what we're seeing gold and silver from where they were last week. When we really were pricing in an attack on Iran. So that's come down, although we should note that all the assets in the region are still there. Indeed, more continue to arrive. So, and as the Israelis, I think it was the Chief of Staff said over the weekend, they could move any time in the next 2 weeks to 8 weeks. So they are clearly as in the dark as everybody else, really. So there's something else just to keep on your watch list of things that might cause, I think you wouldn't be surprised to see that cause further volatility in indices. But if you look at things like the Dow, we're down 0.75% this morning. We are off a grand total of about 1,100 points from a record high or so, maybe slightly more than that. But that was just less than a month ago.
Future still pointing to, obviously, you know, a really tough ride ahead.
And the one I'd watch, maybe, sorry, just the FTSE 100, of course, this morning, because it was impervious last week because oil prices were higher, metals prices were higher, and so all of the miners and oil stocks, such a heavyweight part of the index, were doing so well. So the FTSE 100 was holding up very, very well. You expect that to probably change as we go into today's session, at least as it plays catch up.
What's interesting too is even the the smaller caps last week, nothing was spared, was it?
No.
Nothing was spared. I think I messaged you and Axel saying that half my portfolio is gone because I put very tight stops on, and it was just remarkable. It was like nothing was protected. Let's have a quick look now, speaking of the FTSE, to some of the movers and shakers there. Just taking a look at the losers first, given the risk-off move there. Fresnillo, no surprise, they're down 7.8%. Miners still hurting a great deal. Antofagasta 6.7% down there. Anglo-American as well. For those of you waiting on the sidelines to start maybe having a nibble, I took an early nibble late on Thursday after 4. Not a huge amount, but there is a really, really cool trick out there too. If you guys haven't cottoned on to this, one way of actually testing the system is at that point in time, if you take really, really small nibbles and calculate old school style, pencil or paper, the spread, and of course you would have already taken note of it prior to the fall, you will see that there's a huge big move, or there's no move at all. If there's a big move, more often than not in silver related instruments, then it means that everything is still too volatile. Maybe wait a bit because the spread is rather large, and that's where we were on Thursday. Many people reaching out saying, Ange, is it time to get in yet? And I said no, because silver has this way of becoming more volatile when the Americans join in. So that's 2:30 our time. So you want to be out of there if it's a huge, crazy, wild day with the swings we saw on Thursday and Friday. You do not want to be in unless you love that sort of volatility from about 2 o'clock our time onwards. Standard Chartered also down 1.6.
Yes, so Asia was a bit of a tough session overnight. Hang Seng was down 1.3%. overnight as well, so that's particularly nasty. Standard Chartered here, down 1.5%. Not, I mean, this has had a fantastic run. I mean, it applies to all UK banks at the moment. Absolutely stonking rally from those April lows. So that, and unlike what we're seeing with gold and silver, that doesn't really put a dent in the trend. But certainly HSBC also off at 1.6%. But you can see, you can barely register that at the top of this chart, really. So the main actions, you say, concentrated in the miners, and indeed BAE was downgraded this morning as well, as was Lloyd. So that's also weighing on the sector slightly. But already, we are starting maybe some dip buying going on in Fresno. And I suppose in one sense, it's to be expected, because this would fall into the list of ones that I say last Tuesday you said, keep it on your list as a very, very strong trend. It's a very, very strong performer, but you wouldn't be chasing it up here. I would suspect that the selling doesn't stop in a day.
Nope.
Although if it was the S&P 500, you'd probably assume it was green by the end of the day. But I think bottoms are processes, not events. They take more than at least one day to play out, really. So watch this one. It's getting back to the 50-day moving average. I think it's almost more of a sentiment thing. If you look at silver as well, if I can find it in my list, there we are. You will be looking and thinking, oh, well, I definitely didn't want to buy it up here, and I'll wait for it to come off. Well, it has come off, well and truly come off in a spectacular fashion. But I think, understandably, the human nature will go, well, I don't really want to touch it right now. And I think that's fair enough. It's still in the, I sort of break it down in a very simple way. Sell-offs have a going down phase, a going sideways phase, and then it starts to go back up again. Well, clearly we are in stage one of that at the moment. I don't think you could expect it to come out of stage one too quickly. It's not the 7 stages of grief with me, it's the 3 stages of a bottom.
I love it when he says bottoms this early in the morning. Speaking of which, going on to Greatland, you see this over here as well. Greatland Resources mirroring what Chris was talking about, and you can see that it's still down 5.5%. I have had quite an interesting time with Greatland because I had to part ways with it, except for a small amount still left because I got in at a very good price, 585, and it's currently now at around 625, 624, that sort of area. And so I still have a small position in it. I'm watching and waiting to be able to get back in again. Elsewhere, let's have a look at the gainers. Not so much a gainers day, but let's just have
Are there any?
Unilever.
Ah, there you go. So a few safe haven bids this morning.
IHG, another one, but IHG has been beaten down recently. We've also got Compass Group up 1.5%. Sainsbury's.
Yeah.
Yeah, up 1.3.
They're not hugely safe haven, I suppose, across the board. A few National Grid, you can see there's Severn Trent, some of the dividend payers coming back into. And of course, it's a busy week for earnings. Quarter of the S&P 500, 30% of the Euro Stock 600, I think, according to Reuters this morning, reports earnings this week. So it does promise to be an action-packed week, really.
Yeah.
And
some of the big names, Palantir. Many of you have positions in Palantir. I've been watching that closely for you. Disney as well. We also have the big tech like Amazon and Alphabet as well.
And of course, rate decisions from the RBA, expected to raise rates, the ECB and the Bank of England, both of whom expected to leave rates unchanged at current levels. So on the three fronts with central banks, economic data, you've got ISM and non-farms this week, and then company data. There is plenty going on. And so you just feel that the rout in precious metals, which is obviously caught other markets, I think, in its sights as well, inevitably, when this kind of movement happens. It's also combining with the fact you just have a very, very busy week. And now we have a new Fed chair as well. Or we expect, of course, he needs to be confirmed in his nomination, but it seems very likely, as the FT put it this morning, that he will be confirmed in his post.
I was a bit disappointed you didn't like my pun last week. I thought you'd pick up on it.
Which one was that one?
It's when the rout was happening on the metals market, I said it's getting wash and wash.
I missed that.
But
At least I think I missed it. Maybe I just blotted it out.
maybe you just ignored it. One of the key things which I think should not be ignored is that the most interesting story of January wasn't to do with the Fed, wasn't just to do with that rout that we saw, but the fact that early in February, some of you may remember me saying this, Samsung basically locked in a deal with a Canadian mine for 100% of its output of silver over 2 years. And this story is really interesting because what it says to me is as the world's biggest semiconductor buyer, right, is sidestepping or just going past exchanges, right, bypassing COMEX and going straight to the supplier. And this tells me, friends, that maybe I would love to hear your thoughts, that there's not a pricing issue, but this is a credibility issue. So many of you watching the space, gold, silver, crude, copper, platinum, palladium, doesn't matter what, as long as you were watching it, and if you had stops in place, I hope you did, they would all have been triggered. Where to next? That is going to be interesting on a technical level too, because we've rarely seen this. And actually last time, as you said, was what, 40 years ago? Was that right?
Yeah, the scale of declines of the 80s is the last time we look at this in silver prices. So
we're going to have a special guest later on, Thiru Nagapan, who is extremely well versed in not just metals but also using technicals. He's got his own charting system. He's going to look at that for us using a software that charts ATR historically, and you can chart it over many decades to try and show us where the potential re-entry points are. Right, so what is the rest of your day looking like?
Well, responding to silver and gold, really, I think is the most important thing that we're carrying the day. The interesting one, I suppose, is perhaps talk about Bitcoin, because it was not immune over the past week. We then fell to our lowest level since whenever, last April. So Bitcoin plumbing new lows for the last 10 months or so, really. And also noted, the strategy over the weekend is now in negative territory because of his average entry point. But I wonder if this is the moment that Bitcoin starts to recover. Because if gold and silver have essentially stolen the show from Bitcoin, both through simply because the old-fashioned attraction of gold and silver has reared its head again, but also simply because of the madness of the price momentum to the upside. So the fact that that has now evaporated, and I think that, and probably no better word than evaporated, might finally see some people saying, well, maybe it's time to look at Bitcoin again down here at 76, 77,000. All the hope of a continued rally has been wiped out by the last sort of week or so of price action, and I was going to say perversely, but perhaps not perversely, contrarily, maybe that's the time to look for it to start to bottom out. Again, as pointed out, you've got to let the price action tell you what to think. Don't jump in too early. It's not stopped going down yet, perhaps just because it's rallied off the lows, as has gold in early trading this morning. But it is one to watch, because this is how markets work, really. Gold and silver took all the limelight, took all the momentum, all the fund flows, I would argue, in many ways, from Bitcoin. And maybe that starts to reverse now. But that's not a bad... If you are hoping gold were to bottom around here and near this 50-day moving average, that kind of candle, I know it's very early in the day, but that kind of candle is probably the kind of thing you want to see.
What's also interesting is there is another theory out there, and that crypto may not have that sort of bounce that everyone's looking for because, and I can't find data on this yet, Chris, that many have unwound their crypto positions so that they're waiting to dip back into gold and silver. So that's going to be a really interesting one to watch. And of course, we've got this whole Iran thing as well bubbling in the background. There are various stories out there. I can't get any data. I've been trying to find data, but how much of this is prompting people there to move into Bitcoin to try and get money out in case there is any issues or drama in that geopolitical zone. Otherwise, it's going to be quite a big week because of all those US earnings. NXP Semi is another one of them. And of course, the big event is, boy, it swings round fast, doesn't it? Jobs on Friday.
Jobs on Friday, back to normal.
Right, and on that note, we will have Trade of the Week with Chris later on. It's Chris, it's you, isn't it?
Not Axel? Yeah. No.
Okay. Like ships passing in the night at the moment.
Yes, frequently.
Yes. So whatever you're doing, please make sure you have your risk management in place. No one ever said you couldn't reduce your position sizing to not just dip your toe in, but also to test those spreads, like I told you earlier. Have a great hunting day, and I will speak to you offline.